Hello, Amanda. And
Hello.
who is that?
This is my daughter Cece. She's fighting
Hello,
she's
Cece.
fighting bedtime.
She's fighting bedtime. That's a tough fight. You never win the bedtime fight.
She's very tired, but she likes to fight.
You do eventually go to sleep.
I got one to sleep early and I was like, yes, I'm all ready. Kids are in bed, and then she wakes up crying.
He's like, yeah, you might be on Zoom, but So I bet you have been told thank you more times in the last 6 weeks than you probably have in your entire career.
I have, and I work on the COVID unit right now too at my hospital. So
Wow.
it's
Whereabouts are you?
I work in northern Minnesota, but I live in Wisconsin. We're like right on the border.
So you just migrate.
It's like a 10-minute drive.
And how have you noticed it week to week?
Well, it was really, at first it was really scary because we didn't know what to expect. So when we got our first positive, we were just all like, oh crap, it's here. Our hospital, I think, has done a really good job preparing. They kind of learned from New York where it's just been a disaster. We kind of already socially distance anyways, like we're Minnesotans. We just keep our space from each other in general.
Yeah.
So like not much has really changed.
Yeah.
And it's not so bad, but we're waiting for the second wave to hit.
Right.
It's kind of like the second piece before the second storm.
You hear a lot about people being nervous about going to work, especially if you're a frontline health worker as yourself. Do you find that your colleagues and you are nervous, or is that you kind of past that stage now where even though you still don't know about this disease, it's familiar enough to you that you're prepared to take it on?
Well, we were all really nervous at first because we didn't have a choice in our unit being the COVID unit. They just decided because we're the biggest unit in the hospital. So we were just like, oh, well, that's great. And I was especially nervous just because she was born 11 weeks premature and she doesn't have the best immune system. I take extra steps now. I change out of my scrubs at work and then I come home and shower before I even come near the kids.
Yeah.
Now we're fine with it. We kind of all have a dark sense of humor and we just roll with it.
So who do you think hasn't been thanked enough?
I think the other staff in the hospital is like housekeeping, dietary. I think they need more praise too because they're dealing with it also, especially housekeeping. They have to clean the rooms.
You've just thanked them subliminally, if not literally, one or two. And I hope they get to see you say that on. We have this, the vet hospital down the road. I'm in Massachusetts. They've had this astronomical number of fatalities. The person living opposite my mother-in-law is the janitor there. He seems absolutely normal. He seems to be taking it all in his stride. He cleans the corridors every day, but he's got this kind of carnage happening all around him. And I see him getting out of his car and he comes over to me. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. It's pretty mad. I've been tested.
Yeah.
So
I had to get tested too. That was super fun.
How long have you been a nurse?
2 years.
Do you live in a house with your partner? Or
yeah, I have a husband and we have 4 kids combined.
Oh my goodness, how do you find time between you to have 4 kids combined? And not the having of them, but the looking after them.
Well, he was home for 2 months. He actually just left today to go back to work in Dallas. So he was doing the whole stay-at-home dad thing, and I was working, and then I would just bring him home beer if it was a rough day with the kids. And
right. Does he
survived.
normally work in Dallas?
Well, he's a pilot. He works for American, but he had to go to Dallas for his training that was postponed. Right. So he's down there for a month now training.
Wow. So you're going to be getting used to this communication.
Yeah.
How are your other children? How are they getting on? Because they're at home.
They're driving us crazy. They're all young. We have a 6, 5, 4-year-old, and then we have her who's 18 months. Yeah. So they're just full of energy. They don't really understand why they can't go to school. Homeschooling is rough. I have mad respect for teachers. I don't know how they do it. I would go insane.
We have a load of them in this club, which is amazing.
Well, it takes maybe an hour at most because the kindergartner, he doesn't really have extensive stuff to do. And then the 4 and 5-year-old, it's just kind of alphabet and colors that they do. So it doesn't really take too long to get it done, luckily.
Good. Who was your mom? Because Mother's Day was on Sunday. Is she still with us? Is she still with you?
She is. I'm actually going to go see her on Friday. They live in Arizona. We're going to head down there for a couple days and visit. But she's also a nurse. She works in a hospice house down there.
Goodness.
So it's kind of the family business.
Yes, absolutely. What would you say makes your mom most happy?
When she's spoiling the heck out of my kids, I think.
Okay. And how long has she been a nurse, and has she always been a hospice nurse?
She's been a nurse since she was 20, so like 40 years. She worked in a hospital until they retired and moved to Arizona, and now she works in a hospice house down there, and she loves it.
Say hi from us.
I will.
Please do. And if she wants to drop in a couple of weeks or a couple of days, we'll make room for her.
I know she's a big Star Trek fan. I grew up watching DS9 and Voyager with my parents. It's some of my fondest memories as a kid.
So cool. That is so great. Well, thank you for talking about her. But my mom had me when she was 29 in the Sudan. She fell in love with this dude. She was actually on a trip with another guy, an archaeologist, who showed her Nubia. And then I think he was showing off to my mom, brought her down the Nile on a boat and said, I'll introduce you to a really important family here. And my dad was sent along to meet the boat. And she got off the boat and saw my dad in all white robes and a white turban. And I mean, he's incredibly black. She said she fell in love with him on that pier, which is a kind of problem for Peter, whose name I know, who was a boyfriend. And weirdly, Peter introduced my mom to my dad. After that marriage kind of went south, thought he'd get back together again with my mom and introduced him to her second husband, which was my stepfather.
Oh, wow.
Didn't bypass Peter again and went straight for Michael. Thanks for talking to us, and thanks for bringing that shiny and very sleepy young girl on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's fighting it.
Yeah, you're done. What? Maybe not. Hey, you could go another couple of rounds with Mom.
Oh, probably.
Do you have any idea what's in front of you right now? And I see you have a dog.
I do. She's crazy.
Is it like a South African Ridgeback or something?
They told us she's an Australian cattle dog mix.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. I only saw the ear and a little bit of the head. It's very hard to tell. Well, it's been lovely meeting you both. I'm going to go and talk to someone else. And please stay safe for the sake of those kids. Judita, it's a real pleasure to meet you.
Real pleasure to meet you too. I never expected to meet you in my pajamas because it's 3 a.m. here now.
Oh, where are you?
In Italy.
Oh, okay. My gosh. You should come to Friday's one because the Europeans get it's much kinder time for them.
It's true. I was on Friday, but honestly, I get so much joy out of this club. I can wake up in the middle of the night. It's no problem at all.
Fantastic. Are you working?
No, I'm not, because I'm a script supervisor.
Oh, I know exactly what that is.
Maybe not the people in the chat, but yeah. So I'm not working at all. I'm studying now.
What are you studying?
Sustainability, hoping to find, I don't know, because it got me think a lot, the situation with the film industry right now, because we work so much, we pay our taxes, and we have no safety net whatsoever right now.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I have to put my time in something that I think is really valuable right now. If we really have to rethink our industry from the ground, maybe I can find a more enlightened producer who will think, okay, let's do it properly, and maybe in a way that it will not hurt planet Earth that much. So I'm studying sustainability business, and hopefully I'll be a sustainability supervisor instead of a script supervisor.
Admirable, Judita. That is just admirable. Whereabouts in Italy do you?
I'm in the center, in a city called Prato. It's near Florence, in Tuscany.
Really beautiful. I have really lovely memories of that area. I stayed a little bit near Siena. We went up and down through that area. We didn't stay in a hotel. Before Airbnb, we just rented a house. Beautiful pool, and we had a wonderful house, and we had a little car which we rented, and we would just go and buy our food every day and come home and cook it. I know that isn't so easy to do right now, but you are so lucky to have such wonderful food available to you.
I agree, because actually I live in UK usually, better film industry to be honest. But because I couldn't get any money, not even from Universal Credit, Italy was quite hard at the beginning of this situation. Yes. So they were panicking hard. So I decided to move back in Italy. And honestly, I did it for the food first, and for my family second.
I'm with you. I understand.
We are not good cookers, no one in my family, but we have our own back gardens where we grew our veggies, which is very easily because somehow we have this amazing weather that is just right for fruits and vegetables. We eat incredibly well, and I feel so lucky about that, and to be with my family in this weird time right now.
When was the last time you lived with your family?
6 years ago.
And are you in the same house?
Yes, I live in my childhood bedroom now. Honestly, it's so surreal because being surrounded by my kids' stuff, and also you are treated like your teenage self, because I've always lived abroad. My family doesn't know me as the person that I am now, my working self.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going back in time. I have to rebuild a new version of myself, someone that I can still look at myself in the mirror and recognize me. And at the same time, someone that everybody else can recognize, because I can't just act as my, I don't know, London self and having Yorkshire tea in the morning. They go crazy. They want me having coffee in the morning.
There are many silver linings to this whole thing, and I suspect it's going to get a bit worse before it gets better. One of the things that I'm interested in discussing or looking at, this is forcing people to engage with their own houses, because most people spend most time somewhere else, and they come home for like 20 minutes and then go to sleep, get up and go again. And it's forcing people to be a member of a household. I mean, a really present member available all the time to, like, this is a new energy in everybody's lives, and it's got to be good for someone. It's got to be good. I mean, of course it's got to make you pull your hair out. I just think that re-engagement with the house, with the home, and to build a home is really interesting for the people who are fortunate enough to have family to be with.
No, you're so right. I jewel this time as the moment I connect with my brother, for example, because I'm the older of the siblings. And me and my brother never got along because we were teenage together with very different hobbies and minds and friends. And now I'm back, and he's back from Brazil as adult. And we are, it's the first time in forever, we are in the same household, being brothers and sisters for the first time.
Yeah.
And that is something that I never experienced, living in the house with my brother. I felt it as my brother all the time, obviously, but we never had the chance to talk or to even watch a movie together because we were so different. And now we have our own space together here. Sometimes I think of fratricide, to be honest. I can't stand it, but especially when after his Brazilian summer, he returned with a lot of samba in his blood. So he keeps playing and playing. Even right now, 3 a.m., he's playing. I can hear him from downstairs. But that is something that unprecedented time I have to thank. Seeing these little things is what I will keep in my heart when I will talk about these weird times to my grandchildren, if I have any. Because we are living in something that it will be history. We are going to tell each other stories about, wait, what were you doing during coronavirus crisis? And I was like, I was talking to Sid on my pajama and reconnecting with my brother.
What's your mom called?
Giovanna.
And what did she do through her life?
She's a great Catholic, and she raised us with a lot of love for God, trying to be a better person through God's eyes.
That's great motivation.
Yes, honestly, me being queer, it wasn't always easy. Being Italian and Catholics, that's the kind of thing.
Well, that's very generous of you to still go, and still I'm okay with this, and still that's all right.
What she taught me is bigger than what she is. Yeah. So I can see the truth that she was trying to share with me. And it's beautiful, honestly. I'm very grateful for my mother. And I was really happy when you shared your mother's stories from people on Friday, because it was beautiful. I really was really happy for Mother's Day. I had to celebrate it with my mother and my grandmother together. It was fantastic. It was special because it was the first time we were together in years.
Is your mom really like an old-fashioned Italian Catholic?
No, that is mostly from South, obviously.
Oh, okay.
No, she's really like modern. She's an interior designer kind of person. Core of her life is her faith in God. She keeps it everywhere, even like in the room. You know that she's trying to to share her love for God to you. I
Yeah,
have to endure some bad homophobia from time to time. Yeah, but downside, but she's trying and it's okay.
That's a pretty big deal, because a lot of families would go, I think you're wicked and I won't allow you anywhere near my house. And actually, it's a two-way street. The fact that you're trying is really cool too, at least from where I'm sitting. You're being really understanding and going, she obviously knows who I am. I'm being honest. We're living under the same roof. She's treating me like a teenager again.
I know that I can say now this because I've been away for a while. When I was away, I realized how much of my mother I still bring with me and how much of my Italian heritage I still have with me. It's weird to bring it on Star Trek right now, but it's something that I always found in Garak, for example, his love for Cardassia, because he can't go back to Cardassia, that kind of stuff. He still talk with heart eyes about his planet and his home because he can't go back. And so that was me realizing that I do have heart eyes about Italy and my family, but just because I had the fortune to go away to realize that.
Absolutely. And you came back, and that's the testament to your devotion to your country, is that you went back to her at her most dangerous period in your living memory.
Yes. It was brave of me, but I told you, it was all about the food.
Yeah, okay. That's a good excuse. I'll buy it.
I have one question for you.
You're always welcome. I've been asking you questions non-stop. Why can't you ask me a question?
Wondering if you could share some memories about writing The Nexus, because you suggested, Andrew, of doing a audiobook, like an audio version of A Stitch in Time, his book. I was wondering, well, maybe you too can do an audio version of, or an online Zoom version of The Nexus, your play together.
Absolutely true. I mean, it's possible. I know that Andy was largely responsible for writing The Nexus. He was the writer of Us Too, but he certainly is a fantastic writer, and he will. I'm gonna ask him. In fact, he'll be back, so you can ask him yourself.
Oh, wow!
Try.
Put me up, Mel.
Yes, you've got a special Garak list. He loved his time on the show, and what I'm going to try and do is get various other actors to just come swing by and have coffee with us. Even if it's just 10 minutes, just to say hi and thinking of you guys. I'm producing a couple of TV shows, but that's just another thing that I've got to try and do anyway, so I don't go crazy. But I know I'm not going to be acting for a year. I think that that's going to be a long time. Someone who's familiar with that medicine, but from just taking a poll of all the different opinions that all these doctors have had about when a vaccine is available, I would say that vaccine ain't coming for a year from now. Even if it does come sooner, how are they going to make 500 million of them? And we can't even make 1 million tests. That's why I'm encouraging people to, sing your heart out, get happy doing something else, sing, draw, cook, anything that teaches you something, just the way to go. It's absolutely the way to go. Or you can teach your kids, or that your kids can teach you, or those sort of things. So, and maybe one of these days we'll be able to put together like a collage of everybody's work that we've achieved by the end. When this is over, we'll celebrate it by showing all the things we've learned to each other. And that'll be great fun, actually.
I can't wait for the morning so I can keep singing from my balcony, as every Italian
Those
is doing
pictures,
right
I
now.
love seeing that in Italy.
I'm pretty sure my neighbor has enough of me right now, but I am the kind of stereotype of singing Italian, and I'll keep doing it.
Keep it going. It does bring people joy. It certainly brings us when we see the YouTube videos of all you guys standing on your balconies. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Give my very best to your brother and also to your mother.
I'll thank them. Thank you for this incredible opportunity.
I'm going to keep going as long as this virus does. Nancy, hello.
Hi.
We've talked before.
For like a minute, but then I would lose my Wi-Fi. It goes wonky on me.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm finally getting to talk for more than like 2 seconds.
Yeah, and that's exactly how long you should. We should talk as much as you want now.
Well, that was my sketchbook left now.
Wow.
Frida Kahlo.
Bravo.
Yes.
That is amazing. Goodness.
I did it earlier today.
That is astonishing. You are very talented.
I did a couple of you.
Yes.
Around the hotel.
I remember that guy.
He got killed by the girl from Bride and Prejudice.
I know. It was. I didn't see it coming. I really don't know how I made it to be prince of this vast empire, and I couldn't actually.
I know, right? I had that movie, Bride and Prejudice, right? I didn't like the two of the actresses in that movie killing you at one point or another in your career.
You know, Aishwarya, who I only knew for that one film, was apparently, she married out of acting. She was so beautiful, apparently. She was hired by both Pepsi and Coca-Cola in the same country, which is unprecedented. Apparently, they never hired the same actor.
They're fighting over her.
But they were so in love with her that they hired her for both.
She's very pretty.
Diana, yeah, exactly. Crazy. She was very nice, by the way. Very, very funny. Where are you? Where are you in
I am on Long Island.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been near
It's a
there.
little bit south of you.
We filmed a lot of Gotham on Long Island.
Oh, wow. Yes. Oh, I have another picture of, I did one of you from Gotham, Rachel.
Oh, really? You can show it next time. That's all right.
Yeah, if I young. Yeah.
We filmed in someone's house. It was a really decrepit, weirdly, it was grand and huge, but if you look carefully, it was really breaking apart. I mean, I never get to see where I'm working because I'm usually,
just hotel.
Not so early. Yeah, I'm in the car and it's dark.
Yeah, I couldn't hear about your mom. You think my mom, for a very short time, was a model herself.
Oh, really? Was she the same kind of?
Way.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
2009.
My mum died in 2003. Was she the same kind of model as my mother? Was like sort of a mannequin?
No, more like just like photos.
I think my mum did one or two of those, but it wasn't the rage in the 50s. I mean, there were
super wealthy persons going shopping at like Neiman Marcus. They want someone to show how the clothes look on a real person, not just life-size Barbie doll.
Exactly. I remember a time I went back to Paris with my mum because she made great friends there. And one particular guy was designer of the fur department in Dior. It just happened to be his job and they happened to be good friends. He lived life very extravagantly and we went out. It was a bit like knowing Elton John. Very risque show. And I was very young at the time. And because we were there with Frederic Castet, this famous fur designer, my mother, and there was Rudolf Nureyev, the ballet dancer, came. He was part of our group. And they thought, well, with all these famous people, that guy who looks a little bit like Michael Jackson, because I was at that age, must be Michael Jackson. So the whole show, of course it had to be, because if that's Rudolf Nureyev, then that must be Michael Jackson. Countless women were hanging off these ropes and stopping what they were doing, stopping trying to be erotic or whatever, and just going, I think Michael Jackson. I think that's Michael Jackson.
Did they ask you to do a moonwalk?
Thank goodness they did it. I do remember that night particularly though, because we went to a nightclub and I danced with my mother, and my mother she said, I'm loving dancing with you. And it was a really great, never danced really with my mother before up until that point. It's just too embarrassing. Tell us a bit about your mom.
She and my dad, they both grew up in Rockaway Beach, New York, from Irish families. Yeah, my grandmother was really from Ireland.
First generation Irish or second generation Irish?
All my grandparents came from Ireland. All my parents grew up in Ireland, in Rockaway Beach, New York.
Right.
The only time I understood my grandmother is when she went, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And I would go hide in the closet because I was afraid I might have done something.
Oh my goodness. And what was her name?
Mama Josie.
Mama Jonesy. Okay. When do you remember her being her happiest? Doing what?
She was always cooking. We had a lot of Italian stuff. She's 100% Irish, but everything was Italian.
Have you done one of those DNA tests that everyone's doing, My Ancestry or whatever?
My sister Kathy did that. I found out I was like 7% Jewish. I was a little bit Finnish, Northwest Russian.
My wife did it. She did one of them. They all did it. I mean, my wife and her mom. And she found out that in her DNA, there's hardly any Italian at all. And she was really upset.
What was it the highest percentage?
I think it was English. And she was deeply depressed.
No, I was 0 English.
Yeah. She didn't like the whole English thing.
No English at all.
So how do you become such a wonderful artist? What is it? Do you do it for a living?
No, I'm not just really. I just do it for fun.
Is that print behind you?
Yeah, and some painting. I put them in art. When I was in art class, I put them in.
Oh yes, yes. Wait a minute. You've shown me that. Absolutely, I've seen that. Do you live alone?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm divorced, but I'm good friends with my ex. So.
Right. Okay.
Actually, it was because of my ex and his family that I knew about Star Trek.
Oh really?
My family, not so much.
Well, you should invite him to come on. Come to the club.
I know. Well, he doesn't. Where he lives, he doesn't even have Wi-Fi, so he wouldn't be able to.
Thank you for sharing your art with us. Please keep going. It's obviously something you're so good at.
Oh,
So,
Hi,
hello.
how's it going?
Couldn't be happier. About you?
We're doing great. I have 3 boys, and my mom actually lives with us. She moved in with us last October, so I have been taking the life crash course of personal care, which is, oh boy, more than I imagined, but it's been good.
Is your mum not well?
She took a series of falls after she was able to stay at their house for about a year and a half after my father passed.
Right.
And I would make trips up every month to, make sure the things were clean and all of that, and groceries were purchased, make up freezer meals for her freezer so I would know that she was getting good food that didn't have all the preservatives and everything,
That's
make
really
sure she had food.
And then it became untenable, and she had to be here.
Yes, the doctor said she had to come here, so we built a ramp to the back door, and we remodeled the bathroom, and we built a bedroom downstairs so the kids could all be downstairs, and we're in a new normal now, baby.
You really are. And I know exactly what you're going through, because for the last 7 years of his life, I looked after my stepfather, but I moved over there, and it was either make it very difficult for my brother, who's 16 years younger than me, and so right at the pinnacle of his I've got to get on in the world moment, he didn't need to be stopped and sent home to go and live with his dad, but I could, because I was earning money already, and for a few years there, learning how to clean beds and make sure that people don't get too angry, anger management. And you know the drill, you know what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Gosh, the stories are countless, but
yes.
But I absolutely know, and my heart, you need a lot of strength to do what you're doing. A lot of patience, the patience of Job, because you just want to scream sometimes. You can't, because it actually doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't.
Pointless. It just gets absorbed.
Yeah, between that and the kids having school, Jonathan is in middle school and Levi's in high school. So I have all 3 of them sitting around the kitchen table not doing their schoolwork. They have been in multiple sessions on the couch, for being on YouTube, for being in chat, for doing anything other than schoolwork, telling me, yeah, Mom, the schoolwork's done. And I get a phone call saying, no, it's not.
That's so tough. Do you find that they are trying to run rings around you, or they realize they're trapped?
They're masters at it. At 14, 12, and 8, they are experts.
Oh, they've got
Here,
you down.
let's distract Mom and you go do this.
Oh, you are in all kinds of trouble. You're getting it from both ends. What do you know about your mom before you were around, or just when you just started?
My mom was a waitress in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. She had graduated high school and moved to the big city. My grandparents lived 4 or 5 hours north of the Twin Cities, if you know where Minneapolis-St. Paul is. So she moved into the cities, got an apartment with a friend, and they.
And how did she meet her husband?
He called for her roommate for a date, and the roommate wasn't there, and so he knocked on the door. And no roommate, so he looks at her and goes, I'm here, why don't you go out on a date with me? Wow. And so 3 months later, they were married.
That's kind of romantic, I think. Is anyone else here? Okay, you'll do. Let's go.
We're married for 48 years. Yeah.
Wow. And he just passed two years ago, or recently?
Yeah. 2018.
Was she a traditional mom? Was she like a traditional American mom?
My father was retired from the Navy as an electrician, and we adopted my brother. He became a pastor, and so we moved to literally the middle of nowhere, Missouri. If you know Missouri, it goes like an L shape in the top. In that
Right.
kind of quadrant is where I live, the middle of nowhere. You don't have a neighbor for miles.
Wow.
And he was a bivocational pastor there, so he worked in the electronics teaching high school students. My mom was home until my brother went into kindergarten, at which point they started a computer repair business out of our home, and
Right.
it was literally named Mom and Pop's Computer Shop. My dad put it on the mirror as a joke. Yeah, it was a joke, and he put it on the mirror, and that's what they named the business. And my first job was with my father formatting floppy disks for 50 cents a disc.
Wow.
So I could format them and label them for him, and that was my first job, was formatting discs.
Yeah.
And testing out Commodore 64 systems. I had to test the joysticks to make sure they worked.
Oh
It
yeah.
was a tough job playing
Tough.
Moonraker all day.
Yeah. Terrible.
My Commodore systems are in the closet. They still work.
Wow. They're collector's items.
Yeah, I cried the day I went to the Smithsonian and saw them in the Smithsonian as like ancient. I was like, I still have those and they still work and I still have the discs. Oh my gosh.
And what do you do?
I have a degree in computer science, and I utilized that degree out of college up until about 5 years ago. I came home. My oldest son has autism, and he needed a bit more support in the school system and navigating middle school and all of that. So I came home, was his advocate, and then all of a sudden life happened. My father passed. I was really needed to step up and support my mom more.
Absolutely.
Once a month, I was going up 3 hours one way to be with her, spend the weekend or more, and then 3 hours back.
And your oldest, how is he coping with this?
Surprisingly well. He knows that he can't go to school because of a disease, and he is really big into radio, and he's doing a lot of graphic design right now. Because that's what the school has to offer. And so it's amazing to see his art projects are a lot of COVID-19 related art projects. And I think that that's just him trying to work out something that's going on.
There's a great friend of mine has a son who is also on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
He is just turned about, I think, 19, around about the age of your eldest son, probably a bit before. He got really excited by animation. He is a phenomenal animator, and he's gone to college to learn more about animation. It just suited him. It suited his temperament. And so when you said that about your son, that just rang a bell about this boy, because that's actually kind of similar sort of thing. Some of the teachers I've taught to say that students like your son adapting very well to COVID because they'd actually been taken out of the social system for a while. And
his social life is so much better. Social is like his roughest part, and so he doesn't have to interact with anybody. He's happy. He can be on his computer, and he's in hog heaven.
That's an upside. That's an upside. He's not so much trouble for you then. He's
except for the fact that he can't stay off of YouTube and keeps refusing to get to his class. So downright scary.
A wonderful book which you may appreciate, written by an author called Belinda Bauer, but it's called Rubbernecker. I suggest you pick it up. It's pretty cool. Listen, it's been lovely talking to you.
It's been great, Sid.
I don't think anyone envies your existence right now.
No, you can say it. Go ahead. It sucks to be you. It's fine. I'm good with it. I got broad shoulders. It's okay.
I think they envy you, perhaps, because of your strong shoulders. You're doing a pretty amazing job.
Like, I actually only heard about this earlier today.
Wow.
And I've been unemployed for 5 weeks, so I've lost track of what day of the week it is. And so I saw it, and first thing I thought is, I missed it. It was yesterday. This group of people is really amazing. I've been looking at some of the different pictures, and like the couples inspire me, honestly. Like getting to see couples who, enjoy Star Trek and your work together, spending time like that.
Qualification for being here is just wanting to be here. But I understand that it kind of, you wouldn't want to be here if you didn't actually have some reason.
And I'm sure there's some people in the room that are thinking my last name is made up because it's similar to the Game of Thrones characters, Jon Snow. This is my actual legal name, Jonathan Michael Snow. Funnily enough, you being in Game of Thrones as well, the final season when it was coming out, I got a call from a local reporter, and they asked what it was like being the real life Jon Snow. And that was written up, and I'm like, listen, I'm just lucky that Jon Snow is a good guy that people like. I'm not Joffrey. I consider myself very lucky. Where did you do the filming for your scenes in Game of Thrones, if you don't mind me asking?
I did some scenes in a place called Split in Croatia. I did most of it in Seville in Spain, South Spain. Unnecessarily beautiful city. So that was basically where we did all that stuff. I was very lucky to be in Game of Thrones. I think any actor is, especially because it was already a super hit, huge, massive show, that they were happy to have me come and take over. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, that Duran, the guy I was playing, didn't get out of his chair.
You didn't have to get out of your chair.
Couldn't do anything.
Disappointing. Was that a pretty easy role? There wasn't a lot of physical exercise for that?
Nothing much to do there, especially as my younger, much sexier brother was gallivanting around, dealing with all sorts of brothels and fighting anyone who'd cross his path. It didn't come to a good end, but neither did I. And I guess he had fun. They created the part, and then they realized that the show was going to finish in 2 years. They already had too many loose ends for that last season, and I think I would have been yet another one.
I heard you mention on one of the previous one of these you did that you're a fan of karaoke and that you do that with your wife.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're signed up for the Star Trek cruise, which is the first one I've actually signed up for. I'm signed up for that next year. I'm convinced that a group of Star Trek fans will take hygiene very seriously.
Are you kidding?
and that this will go on forward. So what I wanted to ask is, I don't know if you know, but they do a karaoke night on the cruise. And I was going to see, are you and your wife maybe willing to?
I will definitely come and mingle a bit, but this is my mingling right now.
I was going to ask you also if you still keep in touch with Cole Meany, Chief O'Brien.
I don't. I want to. I love that guy. He and I got on well while we were doing the show, but we really were chalk and cheese. I mean, that was the conceit of the relationship in the show. I mean, the whole point was, look at these two guys, the most unlikely friends. And of course, in real life, we're still the most unlikely friends. So we tried. I told a story about the fact that, St. Patrick's Day, he would hire a limo and we would go to every Irish bar in Los Angeles. And that was good fun. We did those kind of things. That was kind of great fun, memory building things. I like him and admire him. You've been asking me questions this whole time, and I'm here to find out about you. Where are you in this big wide world?
I am in the Tampa Bay area of Florida.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've had a couple of Floridians here. How is Tampa treating you?
Well, it's been very weird here. And what I mean by that, I know everyone is dealing with the different kinds of shutdowns, but yeah. I don't think most areas' economies are based off of tourism, which our area is heavily based off. The fact that there's been none of that happening.
Are you in that business too, in tourism?
I consider myself pretty lucky considering the situation. I know people that have been out of work twice as long as I have. People with kids, I don't know how they're doing it. I mean, you've been talking to these folks and I hear their stories and I really don't know how they do it. The one positive thing I can say out of this is that I've been Zooming with friends that I haven't seen in person that live across country. It's made us all think, why haven't we done this more? Why have we not been communicating more with each other?
Absolutely. And that's a good way to look to think. I mean, I was just telling you what a bad friend I am. I've got to do something about that. I've got to stop being a terrible friend and start getting in touch with people. I've been getting in touch with a couple of people that I just would never have thought of getting in touch with. And it's fantastic to find out how they are, what's going on. And obviously I get a chance to talk to some of you guys, which is brilliant because I feel like I'm clued in. I feel like I'm plugged into everybody. What's your field of specialty?
The most recent field was involving shipping. I was shipping alcohol to people.
Oh yeah.
Helping people get through times when not. And let me put it this way: I didn't realize how many people bought alcohol online until I started doing that. And then, if you can imagine, in the past couple weeks, in some areas that's taken off. In some of the areas, it's been taken out by competition.
Right.
I think one of the things you said earlier was completely right about what is it that most people are up to? Not really anything right now. And so if you're thinking about somebody, give them a call, text them, because they're probably not doing anything. So I have to give a lot of appreciation for people who I know are in much worse situations than I am.
Absolutely. Do you hail from Florida?
I'm originally from Indiana, and then so I've been down in Florida when I started second grade down here. So
Your parents moved to Florida, yeah?
yes, my parents moved down here. My parents are divorced. My dad, he's been unemployed because he works as a trainer. My mother works at a gift shop at one of the greatest little places to visit, Tarpon Springs. It's called the Greece of the United States.
If you had all the money in the world, I mean, it's not really about money, this question, but you could do anything. What would you be able to do for your mom that would make her most happy?
The thing that would make my mom most happy is finding what would make me happy. As you started to say the question, I was going to say, man, he's going to ask me the question that I've been thinking about for a good week now and I don't have an answer to. And what I was thinking is that, you know, if my basic needs were met, if money's not an option, don't know what the answer is yet. I feel like I'm getting a little closer, but...
Is there something that, is there one thing that might be the domino effect that might lead to the next thing?
Well, you know, I go in several different places. So I have a passion for politics. I'm actually a president of a local political organization. I have a passion for teaching. I was a substitute teacher for a while. I love, you know, teaching people about various topics. I'm interested in science fiction, obviously. I'm really fascinated with space. Like, I'm following SpaceX. My ultimate goal is to like leave the world a better place.
Well, you're incredibly young.
I don't know how I do that. I mean,
you do not need to know yet what your role is, and you are well within career beginning territory, you know, in terms of age. But sometimes you just have to take a couple of steps back, and while actively engaging, while actively, say, reading, following your interests, let life happen to you a bit. And that's kind of happening right now with this virus. But you can't be lazy and just not pick up books. I would say books is possibly the most important thing you could possibly do. Yeah. And one thing will just lead to another, and you'll start to piece together how you will give that gift to your mom of being ready to be happy about things. I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained in any of that shit. Excuse me. I'm not supposed to use those words. But I do know common sense, and that is just common sense. You got to actively allow life to come at you. Be ready to let it in. So I think you seem. What got you into Star Trek?
My earliest memories going back would be probably like 2 years old, knowing my dad had that on in the background, but
right.
I didn't really get into it because my parents got divorced when I was really young. I didn't get into it until Voyager. Refused to watch DS9 for the longest time just because I heard terrible things about it, and I didn't want to like ruin my version of Star Trek.
You and a lot of other people.
Well, yeah, and then one night I'm like, all right, you can only watch Voyager so many times, you can only watch TNG so many times, and there's this other Star Trek show out there you've got to watch. Put it on, and I was crying in the first episode because I'm like, this is what I've put off like watching because of what other people have told me. So I've really loved that. I got my roommate into it. We're watching it. Two of his favorite characters are Quark and Garrick. You know, he loves like the nefarious characters. I have to admit, I love those two. I'm so glad to see.
That's great. Well, Andy will be back. He'll come back. We'll see a lot of Andy in this neck of the woods, because he's a very dear friend. And listen, I wish you a huge amount of luck. Come back and join us.
Thank you again so much. I really appreciate it. You totally made my day.
Good. Nice to meet you, Yohana-an.
Hi.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Good.
Where are you, on a rocking chair?
I'm in like a recliner.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
With nice like books back there.
Yeah, over there is where I'm having to do Zoom calls for work. So I like try to make it look a little more professional because I'm by far the youngest person in my company. And I run social media for my company, so
You better be good.
I'm like the only person younger than 30 at my company.
Ooh,
so
oh, wow. What kind of company? You don't have to tell me the company.
I work for a news company that focuses in geopolitical news.
Okay, right. Terrific.
Yeah, so luckily for me, weirdly, we were going through a transition already where a company had bought our company. So now we were going through the weirdness of transitioning to being owned by another company during this. So that's been like interesting.
Oh my goodness. And is your company like overtly political, or is it quite objective?
It tries to stay objective.
That's terrific. I hope it stays that way, because often when you start to get swallowed up by bigger fish, you start to get used to fill a hole in their program?
Luckily, we were bought by another company that was about the same. Like with the two companies combined, it's about 100 people. It's not a huge company.
Okay, so it's a tiny, it's still on the moderate side. Yeah, I completely empathize, by the way, with trying to figure out what your background should look like.
Yeah.
My wife agonizes about it because she's a lawyer and she's got to go on and she's got to, sit. They're having virtual courts. Where are you? Where is your side?
I live in Austin, Texas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Humming city. There's a big filmmaking community there.
Yeah, there is. One of my roommates is my brother, but he saw one who was like at a festival and turned around and just saw Terrence Malick just filming a movie, and apparently none of those shots actually made it into the movie.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it entirely. I was lucky to work with him last year. He is one of those people who just picks up shots wherever he can get them.
Yeah.
And he's not interested in any formality, anything to be staged. He's just like, let's go. So how is the feeling in Austin? Because I know Austin are pretty responsible about all this stuff.
A lot of Austin feels a lot different than the other parts of the state. That sometimes people are like, Texans are doing this, and a bunch of people in Austin are like, not all of us.
Not us. Do you still work, by the way? You say you do.
I work from home now.
I get the sense that I'm not doing enough. There must be something I can do. There must be, because Mel is amazing. Mel is doing this for her community and then delivering food for her community and, getting around and making sure things happen and all sorts of things like that. I'm not. Do you ever feel like that?
I didn't grow up in Texas. I'm a military brat. So I also don't know that many people outside my age range in Texas.
Yeah.
So if people are like, go help your community of older people. And I was like, I don't really know them. A lot of people, I work with a lot of people who are from other areas, from other parts of Texas, and they all kind of went home. I work with some people who are outdoorsmen, and so they all disappeared to weird ranches somewhere in Texas. Bought an inflatable pool just so I could have somewhere to go outside.
You know what? That's actually, you're weirdly like my wife's like that. She will sit in an inflatable pool in a tiny garden out back and read papers.
I've been reading out there. I've been reading more because I'm trying to find hobbies that don't involve looking at a screen. Yeah,
and reading actually is not so difficult. I mean, it's much harder to read with an iPad. I mean, I get all my scripts online now, and it's really, really difficult to read scripts on you want to write stuff. And also with books, obviously this is not appropriate for virus talk, but I love books that other people have read. So in a weird way, I like secondhand books. I like books that have a second novel.
I always love when I find margin notes from someone about something.
What is your aspiration?
I'm trying to be a writer. I would say I've been bad writer's block during all this, I think, because I've been at a computer working all day.
I'll tell you what, the advice that I have been told, the thing that I've always heard is that you allocate a time every day, just quarter of an hour to start with, just quarter of an hour, where you have absolutely nothing else to do but write. And the first day you sit down and you write anything you can think of. Don't try and make a story, don't try and be clever, don't try and be cute, just write a shopping list and then come back next 15 minutes, do it again, and then do it again. And you will start to build a memory of where you're blocked.
Yeah. I've been trying to, at least on the weekends when I'm not having to log on to work, to try and get more writing done then.
Yeah, you really need to look forward to it. So you've got to allocate a little, just not too ambitious, allocate a little bit of time, and you call it whatever you want.
I need to learn to enjoy the actual creative process as opposed to enjoying the product I'm trying to make.
Absolutely. Yeah. Stop trying to make so much money and start making something else. Tell me about your mama.
My mom is a kindergarten teacher, actually.
Oh, brilliant. We've got another kindergarten teacher.
And she currently, her and my dad was in the Air Force and he now is retired, but still works on the Air Force base that, when I was in high school. He was a lawyer and he worked for the Air Force, but now he works for the Department of the Navy on the same base. And so they actually live in Japan. And my mom works as the school on the American Air Force base in Japan. And then my dad.
That's an unusual thing for your parents to be doing. And you because you seem really young to me. So you've obviously, this is all quite new for you, this situation, or did you get out of the house really quick?
Really quick in that I moved back to the States when I was 18 because I lived in Japan for high school.
and I hadn't lived in the continental US since about 4th grade. And luckily my older brothers were already here, but I at 18, because I had a scholarship to go to the school in Texas, and in-state tuition is very much a thing here. I couldn't really afford to go anywhere but a school in Texas. I mean, I was lucky in that my parents had done, there used to be, this thing is not a thing anymore, something called the Texas Tomorrow Fund, where you could pay into college earlier and then they would help you pay for it.
Right.
They got rid of that because it got so expensive, but they honored it, and my parents had done that for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were able, but we have well, you have to go to Texas now.
Absolutely. Well, that could be a lot worse. I mean, Texas is no bad place. They got some good schooling there.
My high school had about 300 people in it, which is very small for the U.S. And then my first lecture hall class in college had 500 people in it.
Wow, night and day. Well, I hope you unlock your writer's block. I think probably don't have writer's block, to be honest. I think it's a much more serious thing than you probably could possibly have yet. Just have to give yourself a little bit of TLC, not quite so much going around picking up the phone and saying, have you tried switching it off? Have you tried switching it on again?
I have been reading a lot more than I had previously, and I think that also, I was it's inspired me to be oh, I could write something where I could make that the way I wanted it when I was reading it.
Absolutely. Well, you can do worse than read the book I recommended earlier. Are you alone in your apartment?
No, my roommate's actually my brother.
Oh, perfect.
So that was convenient. Although, he was living here and already, and then when I graduated college, I left my small college town to look for a job in Austin. Yeah. And although I always said, I was oh, if this had happened when I was in college, I still would have come here. I wouldn't have stayed in my small college apartment with 3 other people that I barely knew.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming along and saying hi and sharing some of your stories with us.
Thank you for doing this. This is great.
Thank you to everybody who's come along and shared some stories with us. I know we went a little bit over time today, but that's because I dawdled. Thank you. Thanks to everybody. Oh, one last thing. If anybody has a birthday this week or last week, because I forgot to do it last week, would you unmute yourself and say me?
Me.
Oh, perfect. Then will everybody unmute themselves and say happy birthday to these beautiful 3 me's at least.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And many more.
Birthday.
Yay.